Hey, it's DL here, and I wanted to talk to you today about angels. And I have an angel. He's an unlikely angel because we really weren't very close in life, but he's taught me a lot in death. So I'm here to talk to you about Scott. And Scott was a patient of mine in New York who I treated at the end of his life. He was a young man who had been over-radiated. I think he was given 1,000 times the recommended dose of radiation for his cancer, and it caused destruction in his body, and he died a slow and painful death over a few years. I treated him maybe 10 times, so we weren't particularly close. I went to his memorial. I treated his wife, his widow, maybe one time thereafter. But after Scott had died, a few years later, I'd moved down to Florida, and which is several thousand miles from New York City and where Scott lived. I was seeing patients down here, and I got a referral from a colleague in New York who recommended this woman to me. So we talked on the phone, and typically I do an email intake, so I got her email address and put it in my email account, and sure enough, she was a contact, and I had no idea who it was, so I thankfully don't delete any of my emails and looked her up, and sure enough, this was this gentleman's widow. I didn't even remember Scott's name. I had to look him up on the internet, and I was freaked out by this, obviously. What are the chances? So sure enough, I called her immediately and said to her, you know, we know each other. I was Scott's physical therapist in New York, and I'm getting chills right now. And she said, well, I'm getting chills too because today happens to be the anniversary of Scott's death. That was going on 4 years ago in February, which is probably why I'm thinking of him. And sure enough, the next year I ran into her again the day after Scott's death. The year after that, which was last year, I ran into her the end of February. I didn't see her the beginning of February around his death time, and today I'm sharing his story with you. And so there are a couple of things I learned from Scott's life and Scott's death. Primarily, one, do your best not to get sick because you're putting your health in the hands of other people, and medical errors is the third leading cause of death in the United States. Number two, there are no accidents. I believe that everything does happen for an ultimate reason, to teach us something. And number three, our loved ones will always be with us. So thinking of your loved ones that have passed, thinking of Scott, and wishing you some joy in your grief. Thanks.